My girlfriend's dad, Mark, laughed right in my face. You're a nobody, too broke to ever own a place. My girlfriend, Sarah, giggled along with him. I just nodded and walked away. Years later, I owned 3 houses while she was stuck in a tiny apartment, and her dad had lost everything. Now they call and text me nonstop. I still remember the exact second I decided to change everything. It wasn't when Mark called me a nobody. It wasn't even when Sarah laughed with him. It was the small, almost invisible nod he gave her after, like they shared some nasty little secret about me. That tiny move told me everything I needed to know about my future with them. This happened 3 years ago. I was 25, dating Sarah for 2 years, and thought I was on track for the whole good life thing. I had a steady job that paid okay, but I wasn't rich. Still, I was proud of what I'd done myself, coming from a normal family with no help. Mark, on the other hand, had always had money and never let anyone forget it. He owned tons of property and always found a way to talk about his latest buy. At first, I tried to learn from him, really wanting to do well. But soon, I saw he wasn't sharing advice. He was just showing off how much better he thought he was. That awful dinner started like any other Sunday at their house. Sarah's mom, Lisa, had made her usual roast, and everyone was talking about their week. Mark was bragging about his newest building project when he turned to me. So, Ben, still at the same job, making what, $65,000 a year? I nodded, taking a drink. Yeah, but I might get a promotion soon. He chuckled, cutting his meat. You know what I made when I was your age? 3 times that. And that was 30 years ago. I forced a smile. Different times, I guess. No, son, different drive, different skills. He pointed his fork at me. You know why most young people can't buy houses now? They have no vision. They waste money on fancy toast and subscriptions instead of building real wealth. I started to say something about the housing market, but he cut me off. Take Sarah here. She's got potential, making moves in her career. But you, he shook his head. You're comfortable. Comfortable means stuck. At this rate, you'll never own anything in this city. You're a nobody, and nobody's rent forever. That's when I heard it, Sarah's laugh. Not her real laugh, the one I loved, but this fake, high-pitched sound she used to please her dad. She even reached over and patted my hand like I was some poor thing she had to take care of. Dad's just trying to push you. Honey, she said, that fake smile still on her face. I looked around the table. Lisa suddenly became very interested in her wine. The air felt thick with unspoken judgments. And then Mark gave Sarah that tiny nod, that secret we're better than him sign that broke something inside me. I didn't make a scene, didn't try to defend myself. I just stood up, thanked Lisa for dinner, and walked out. Sarah followed me to the door, confused by my reaction. She actually said, you know how Dad is, just laugh it off. But I was done laughing, done being the joke. I drove straight to my best friend, Kyle's place. Kyle worked in money stuff and had been trying to get me into investing for years. I'd always played it safe with my money, but that night, something clicked. We stayed up until 3 a.m., planning, looking at the market, property values, chances to buy. My sister, Emily, joined us around midnight with coffee and her business smarts. By sunrise, I had a solid 5-year plan. The next day, I broke up with Sarah. She was shocked, kept saying we could work through it, that I was being too sensitive. But when I mentioned her laugh at dinner, she got angry. What? I can't laugh at a joke now. No, I said, you can't laugh at me anymore. That was 3 years ago. I just finished setting up the online system for my newest house, and a familiar name popped up. Mark, trying to connect on that work website again. 4th time this month. It finally hit them that nobodies can become somebodies, and sometimes they become exactly who they needed to be all along. Update 1. Wow. Thanks for all the support on my last story. Didn't think it would get so much attention. A lot's happened, and I was waiting until things were solid before sharing. Remember Mark trying to connect online? That was just the start. Last week, I got a text from a number I didn't know. Ben, it's Mark. We should talk about some chances to make money. I think we got off on the wrong foot. I had to laugh. 3 years ago, I was a nobody. Now he wants to talk business. But let me back up. The last 2 years have been crazy. That 5-year plan with Kyle turned into a 2-year sprint when the market changed suddenly. I'd been saving like crazy, living in a tiny place, and putting every extra dollar into my investment fund. Kyle kept telling me to slow down, but something inside me wouldn't let me. My first house was a small fixer-upper in a growing neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I spent weekends fixing it, learning from online videos and asking favors from friends who knew tools. Emily, my sister, turned out to be surprisingly good at decorating on a budget. Then the market dipped. While everyone else panicked, I saw a chance. I'd been watching this one property for months, a two-family house that had been empty. The owner was in trouble and needed to sell fast. I managed to get a loan. Thanks, Kyle, for helping me build my credit, and bought my second place for way less than it was worth. That's when I started hearing things about Mark. His latest building project wasn't going well. Workers were leaving, permits were delayed, stuff like that. I tried not to pay attention, but in a small city, news travels fast. Then came the weird part. Sarah showed up at my office one day, out of nowhere. "Ben," she said, fiddling with her purse, "you look good." I kept it professional. "Thanks. What can I help you with?" She spent 10 minutes making small talk before finally getting to the point. "Dad's working on this amazing building project, really exclusive. He thought, well, we thought, maybe you'd be interested in investing." The irony wasn't lost on me. Why would a nobody like me be interesting to her dad now? She flinched. "That was years ago. People change. Dad's changed. He really respects what you've built." "What I built without his help or approval," I said. "Please tell your dad I'm not interested." She tried a different angle. "Ben, we had something real. Maybe this could be a fresh start for us too." That's when I realized she hadn't changed at all, still trying to please her dad, still seeing me as a way to get what she wanted. "No, Sarah, we didn't have something real. We had something easy that fell apart the moment things got tough. Please don't come to my office again." A month later, I bought my third property, a small shop downtown that no one wanted because it needed a lot of work. But I saw its potential. While everyone else chased the next big thing, I was quietly building my own little empire with places I could manage myself. Kyle thinks I'm working too hard. Maybe he's right. But every time I get a new place ready for renters, I feel this quiet satisfaction that money can't buy. It's not about proving Mark wrong anymore. It's about proving myself right. Last night, I got another text from Mark. "Ben, I know we've had our issues, but I have a business idea that could help us both. Serious money involved. Call me." I showed the text to Emily over dinner. She just shook her head and said, "Funny how people only remember your number when they need something." The texts kept coming. 3 more today, each one more desperate. Something's definitely wrong in Mark's world, and he thinks I'm his way out. But here's the thing. I don't need to be anyone's way out anymore. My properties are doing well, my renters are happy, and I'm building something that will last. No quick fixes, no shortcuts, just steady growth. This morning, I saw Sarah at the local coffee shop. She was arguing with someone on the phone about rent. Our eyes met for a second, and I saw something like regret in her eyes. She quickly looked away and hurried out. I should feel happy, but instead, I just feel calm. The best revenge isn't winning. It's realizing you were playing a completely different game all along. But these texts from Mark are getting more and more frequent. I have a feeling this story isn't over yet. Something big is coming, and for once, I'm not the one who needs to worry. Update 2. I wasn't planning another update so soon, but things have blown up fast. Remember those desperate texts from Mark? Well, now I know why. It started with a news story in our local paper. Prominent local builder faces multiple lawsuits. I didn't need to read the whole thing to know it was about Mark. His latest building project, the one he wanted me to invest in, had completely failed. Unfinished buildings, angry investors, and a pile of bad checks. But that's not the main reason I'm writing. Last Saturday, I was having breakfast at my usual spot when Lisa, Sarah's mom, walked in. I hadn't seen her since that dinner 3 years ago. She looked different, tired, older. She saw me and hesitated before coming to my table. "Ben," she said softly, "do you have a minute?" I nodded to the empty chair. She sat down, her hands wrapped around her coffee cup like she was freezing, even though it was summer. "I left Mark," she said just like that. "After 30 years. I just couldn't anymore." She took a shaky breath. "The money's been gone for months. He kept borrowing, trying to cover losses, making bigger and riskier deals. I found out he'd put a loan on our house without telling me. I just sat there, my coffee forgotten, as Lisa told me everything. How Mark had been living on borrowed time and money for the past year. How his reputation in town was ruined. How Sarah had to move out of her fancy apartment and into a tiny studio because her dad couldn't pay for it anymore. He keeps talking about you," Lisa said, managing a weak smile. Says you're the one who saw it coming. That's why you got out when you did. I shook my head. I got out because I needed to respect myself, not because I saw any of this coming. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I should have said something that night. I'm sorry. That conversation bothered me for days. Not because I felt bad for Mark. He made his own choices, but because it made me question my own satisfaction in their downfall. Then came the texts. Not from Mark this time, but from Sarah. Screenshots of late rent notices, questions about rental applications, asking if I knew of any cheap places. Each message more desperate than the last. I showed them to Kyle over beers. He just shrugged and said, "Karma's a mirror, not a weapon." But it got more complicated. At Emily's wedding last weekend, Sarah was there, a last-minute plus one of a friend. She looked out of place in a dress that had seen better days. During the party, I overheard her in the bathroom, crying to someone on the phone about having to sell her expensive bags to pay rent. Later, she cornered me by the bar. "I get it now," she said, her voice a little slurred. "What it feels like to have someone look down on you, to feel worthless." She laughed sadly. "Dad always said money talks. Guess it also knows how to say goodbye." I wanted to feel like I'd won. Isn't this what I'd worked for, to prove them wrong? But watching Sarah struggle through the party, trying to act like everything was okay while her world was falling apart, felt empty. The final straw came yesterday. Mark showed up at one of my properties while I was doing some work. He looked terrible. Expensive suit gone, replaced by old pants and a faded shirt. "Ben," he said, his hands in his pockets, "I know I don't deserve any favors, but I have a deal, a sure thing. I just need a small investment to get things going again." "Like the deal you offered me 3 months ago?" I asked. "The one that just made the news?" He flinched. "That was different. This is solid. I've got all the paperwork." "Stop," I said. "Just stop." He did something then that shocked me. He started to cry. Not loud sobs, but quiet tears of a man who'd lost everything. "I don't know how to be nobody," he whispered. I stood there, paint roller in hand, watching this man who'd once seemed so powerful break down in front of me. And I realized something. I didn't want this. Any of it. I'm successful now, my properties are doing well, I'm growing. But watching Mark and Sarah fall hasn't made me feel the way I thought it would. Carl says I'm growing up. Emily thinks I'm too forgiving. But yesterday, I did something I never thought I would. I sat down with Mark and helped him make a realistic budget. Not as someone who would invest, not as his savior, but as someone who remembers what it's like to start over. This morning, I got a text from Lisa. "Thank you for showing him kindness he didn't deserve." Maybe that's the real revenge, becoming someone who doesn't need it anymore. Final update. Remember when I helped Mark with that budget? Turns out that was his last try at tricking people. I found out he'd been showing that budget to potential investors, using my name as his financial advisor to make himself look trustworthy. That was the moment any bit of sympathy I had left vanished. Last month, I got a thick envelope from Lisa's lawyer. Inside was a detailed record of every property deal Mark had ever made, including the illegal ones. Lisa had kept everything for 30 years. "I'm not proud of staying silent," her note read, "but I'm doing what's right now." I took those papers straight to Kyle. 3 hours later, we had mapped out every fake company, every misleading contract, every investor Mark had lied to. His whole house of cards was laid bare on Kyle's dining table. "You know what's interesting?" Kyle said, looking at the papers. "The building where Sarah's new studio apartment is? It's one of Mark's hidden properties. He's collecting her rent through a fake company while claiming he's broke." I leaned back, letting that sink in. He was still scamming his own daughter. The next morning, I made 3 calls. To my lawyer, to the state investigator's office, and to the biggest real estate company in town. By evening, I'd made an offer to buy all of Mark's hidden properties, including Sarah's building, for next to nothing because of all the legal trouble. Mark showed up at my office the next day, face red. "You can't do this. Those properties aren't even officially for sale." I didn't look up from my computer. "Actually, they are. Your creditors are quite motivated after getting copies of these documents. Interesting reading material." "You're destroying my last chance to fix things," he yelled. "Like you tried to destroy me?" I finally met his eyes. "The difference is, I'm doing everything legally. Just good business, right?" He deflated, leaning against the wall. "What do you want?" "I want you to disappear. Leave town. Never contact me again. And sign these papers, transferring all property rights cleanly and legally." "And if I don't?" I pulled out another folder. Then these documents go to every investor you've ever worked with, every bank you've borrowed from, and every law enforcement agency in the state. He signed an hour later. Sarah burst into my office. How could you? That's my home. Your home. I raised an eyebrow. You mean the apartment your dad's been collecting rent on while claiming poverty? While you sold your expensive bags to pay rent? Some father. She went pale. What are you talking about? I showed her the paperwork, watched as she read through it, her hands shaking. When she looked up, something had changed in her eyes. What happens now? She whispered. Now you have a choice. You can keep renting from me, honestly and legally, or you can move out. Your father's hidden properties are being sold off to pay back his investors. He's leaving town. Just like that. Just like that. She left without another word. Later that night, Lisa sent a text. Thank you for ending this. Now we can all move forward. 2 days ago, I finalized the purchase of all Mark's hidden properties. My holdings doubled overnight. The state investigation into his dealings is ongoing, but I'm clean, just a smart investor buying cheap properties. Yesterday, I got an email from Sarah. She's moving out of state for a job. Her last line read, I understand now what real strength looks like. It's not in putting others down. It's in rising above while they fall on their own. I didn't reply. This morning, I signed the papers to start my own property investment firm. Kyle's coming on board as a partner. Emily's handling the renovation contracts. We're doing things right. Transparent, legal, ethical. Mark's name is now poison in the industry. His empire is mine. His daughter's gone. His wife's free. And I did it all without breaking a single law. They say success is the best revenge, but here's what they don't tell you. True revenge isn't in watching your enemies fall. It's in becoming so powerful that their fall becomes just another business opportunity. My phone still buzzes with messages from unknown numbers. I don't read them anymore. There's nothing left to say.